You had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Mattie C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back. Yes. Episode 161. It's hard to believe, but we're here. We are here, and we're ready to roll. And without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Mattie C, a.k.a. Bad Callie, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Mattie C, etc., 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 and all the way from Granite City Studios in St. Cloud, Minnesota. But Shield, what is going on there, Shield?
It's hard to believe that we already have gone through the end of training camp for the NFL, and literally 1 week from tomorrow, we have real football that we're going to be watching. I'm more than excited about it. We're closing out the month of August, closing the door on, well, summer that will be with Labor Day coming up, but also going to be looking forward to another season that is football season coming up here very, very soon.
Very soon, and there is a lot of football to talk between now and the first game. College starts up this week, which will be fun as well. A lot to be talking about there. But Voldy, we've been gone for a week. There were things going on last week.
A while.
And there was. If you've been following the social medias, which most of you do, Your boy got a chance to meet somebody very special, and that was one.
Oh my God,
Kirko Chill. Yes, we got to meet Kirk Cousins. A couple things with that. One, I said exactly what Christian Darrisaw said, and he laughed. and I unfortunately they didn't give me a chance to give them a sticker, sign it, and or hop on the show. They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me. But here's the thing. I know Zim saying F me, whatever. At the same time, I didn't. It's just like, shoot. Like, come on, guys. I mean, he could come on the show. We'll talk about whatever he wants to talk about. If if there are things that he doesn't want to even touch, that's fine. Yeah. But I just want to say on record, and I say this to our guy kirkochainz, you're more than welcome anytime. Absolutely anytime on our show.
We'll make it happen.
We're big Kirk believers. We know that the haters are out there of Kirk Cousins, but we are not one of those people. And we'd love to talk about some stuff with Kirk, and I'm sure he would love to be on this show as well. Apparently, he thinks I can go on the offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings, and I said, you just let me know, Kirk. I'm ready to go, man. Let's go. I'll get that straight cash.
Highest of compliments right there.
Yeah. I was like, hey, man, I'm happy to help out. I know the right guard spot's kind of right now, so we'll see. Yep. No, I'm just kidding. But, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that it won't happen, because I think it will. I'm feeling confident about it. And I think Kirk would love to come on this show. We have a lot of fun here. I think so. But if you've been following the social medias even after that, we've got Pick'em back, baby. Let's go. Pick'em is back. And, yes, there's really nothing different. It's free to play.
Nope.
You can win MinneZona merch any week we decide. And also, if you keep playing towards the end of the year, you could win a MinneZona bundle. Yes,
bundle.
A MinneZona bundle. Now, what's that all about? You could possibly get a hat. You could possibly get a shirt.
What?
Possibly get something else. There are things in the works here, people. So keep your eyes peeled on the social medias and whatnot. But Pick'em is back. You can sign up on CBS Sports. Very easy to do. The link is in our socials medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Click on the link, sign up. It's free. Why not? And honestly, Voldy, how long does it take you to do your picks? Tell me.
Well, if you don't think about it, it takes you about 2 minutes at the most.
Exactly.
Straight gut reaction like I do every single week.
Exactly. And that's how it's supposed to be done. So, very quick, very easy, and you can win. Anyone can win. At 1 week, we could say, all right, who's going to get the top score this week? And some people do. And the thing is, if you do get that top score and you're tied with somebody, guess what? You're still going to get a prize. You're still going to get MinneZona merch. So I don't think anyone can complain there. So just keep that in mind while you're playing. So anyway, Voldy, let's get into what we're talking about today. Yes. We have the Minnesota Twins. Roycelewis has been on fire, dude. He's been really, really good. We're going to talk about that for Tater Tot Hot Take tonight. And then also the Vikings have finally cut down to 53 with a few caveats with that. There's a lot of moving around these past couple days, which is kind of insane to me. But then again, we'll see kind of how it pans out because it's changing by the hour here. So we'll try to keep you up to date on that. And then tonight, Voldy, we are bringing back Where Are They Now? If you followed the socials medias, today, before the show, we've got a couple really good ones. One, Mattcassel and Brock Lesnar. Yes. Where are they now? Mattcassel, I don't. People know about Mattcassel. We'll wait to kind of do that in a little bit because Voldy, you and I, and other people that we know as well. There's a story behind some of this too, with Mattcassel. But we're going to talk about the short career of Brock Lesnar. I just thought good training camp story. There's a lot to be said with that. So check that out. We got a lot going on with that. ARA this week, a lot of NFL talk with this week, a little college football. So, it's ramping up, people. So we are going to have a lot of fun. And, of course, we got some Shield shout-outs. We've been off for a week. We got a bunch of Shield shout-outs to get to tonight. So, Voldy, enough out of my mouth. Let's finally get some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it is time for some Tater Tot Hot Take, and the first one we start off with, I feel like this one we should lead off with today, because I want to talk positive about this Minnesota Twins squad. Even though they did lose today, they still have a 5-game lead of the AL Central. So, Voldy, Zoners, there's been a lot of talk with Royce Lewis, Rolls Royce, you can call him, or anything like that. He's the first Twin to hit grand slams in consecutive games, so we give him applause. Ever.
Wow.
So that's really positive. Voldy, I don't know if you followed the social medias on Sunday, but yours truly was effectively at the Twins game, and
yes,
I said something that I feel like had to be addressed, because at this point I'm getting frustrated with Byron Buxton. I said Royce Lewis right now.
Yes,
he's better than Byron Buxton. I mean, is that bad? Is that good? I'm just saying that from what I saw, there is more upside right now with Royce Lewis than there is right now with Byron Buxton. So, Voldy, I'm going to ask you this, and obviously, since he's come back, he has been just electric for this team, and they need that because the bats have been just up and down. But now,
not good.
He's been on fire. So, Voldy, would you agree right now with my tweet that I put out on Sunday? And what are your thoughts so far on Royce Lewis? Go ahead.
I think just him being fully healthy has been really beneficial here for the Twins this season. Obviously, we did get a little glimpse of it last season before he did hurt himself and ended up blowing out his knee again. But that also did lead to the opportunity to recognizing that Royce Lewis is an infielder and not putting him in the outfield, because just because a guy's athletic doesn't mean you can just put him in the outfield and he's an outfielder to begin with. So moving him back to the infield at third base, that's where he's been seeing most of the action as well. While, Carlos Correa remains at short when he does play short too. Has been much more beneficial. Getting comfortable at a position has led to him obviously being productive in the lineup as well with the bat. Did see it down at AAA with the Saints. Now he's up here with the big club, and now they're paying dividends. I mean, since, he missed it's a 6-week stretch or whatever, going into, I think it was into today's game or earlier this week, 14 for 47, 4 home runs, 9 runs, 13 RBIs, 6 walks in just 12 games. That's at least a hit a game and 1 home run every 3 games as well. He's driving in a run a game as well and scoring a run almost every game as well. So he's finding ways to be productive offensively with his team and contributing in a big way. Like I said, he could be a very similar way that Jose Miranda was last season for the Twins, being consistent enough bat in the lineup for the Twins to hopefully push them even farther here with this lead that they have in the Central heading towards the postseason as well.
And, I look at this from the perspective of the fan, and, all fans, I think, are very frustrated with how things have gone with Byron Buxton. And, I almost... it's like, well, we should have traded him while the stock was high and this and that. And it's like, there is a lot of potential with Byron Buxton. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I feel like the Twins have exhausted their resources to try and figure out something to, make this work. You try to put him in the DH spot, which is beneficial too, somewhat. But it's like, even when you get him on the base paths, you have to like hold your breath, because you don't know if he's gonna, hurt something, slide in, get a concussion, or get something with his leg or his arm. It's always something. And it's just gotten to the point where it's like you can't rely on him to be an everyday starter. Whereas Roycelewis, he's had a lot of injury stuff. He tore his ACL twice, okay? Or was it twice or 3 times? I think it was twice.
Twice.
Yeah, so twice. And now he's back, he's healthy. You see what impact he makes. I mean, the Twins were down 5-0 that Sunday against Texas, and then Roycelewis had runners on, hits a grand slam, and then the next day against the Guardians hits another grand slam. So you have to ride this wave. And I know people are like, well, that Correa thing wasn't smart, getting him back and whatnot. And he hasn't really lived up to what we expect him. He's making all this money. But you got to find a spot for Roycelewis. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He has to be in the lineup. He has to be starting. You got to keep a guy like that, in the lineup. So you gotta make some tough decisions, I feel like, in this offseason. But obviously Roycelewis won't be one of those people, thank God, that they'd get rid of. But there's a lot of guys in the infield. There's a lot of guys in the outfield. I mean, Kirilloff, he's going to be in a rehab assignment in St. Paul for the Saints, and then the same with Buxton. So with all that being said, let's kind of look ahead here. Roycelewis is playing pretty well. Correa's, doing okay. Pitching, not terrible. I mean, Bailey Ober they sent down, which I think is a smart thing, because I feel like, people are like, oh, he's been so good. But he has his moments, trust me. I saw it on Sunday, that's for sure. But, they got a tough stretch coming up. I talked about it before the show with you, Voldy. You're at Texas coming up here, and then after that you're at Cleveland. And I said they got to win both series in order to keep ahead in the AL Central. Now, I don't know who the Guardians play after us here, but these are some crucial games coming up. These series against the Rangers and the Guardians. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that, Voldy? I mean, at least winning the series against, one team that's really good and has been really good in the AL, and then you have a team that's nipping at your heels. So what do you think?
Yeah, because it's the last time you're going to see Cleveland this season, too. It's coming up here already next week, which is even crazier to think about, that we're heading into the final month of the season. Looking at the Twins' schedule, they got that 3-game set coming up against Texas. That's not going to be a cakewalk there, because the pitching matchups already going up against the Twins. You got Scherzer, Montgomery, and Gray going for them. So those are some horses right there. Then you go to Cleveland. Then you're back at home. You take on the Mets for a 3-game set, Tampa for a 3-game set. You're at Chicago for 4, at Cincinnati. Then you go and take on the Angels. You take on Oakland. You take on Colorado. Look, none of these series are a given, and it's like they built up the Twins schedule for the back half of the year to be, playoff-worthy matchups too, because these teams are certainly no slouches as well, especially once we come into the crunch time here of this season too. But as long as the pitching can stay as consistent as it has, with, especially lately, Dallas Keuchel has, looked like the Dallas Keuchel of years past as well.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray's leading the American League in ERA. If Kenta Maeda can get some, more consistency out of his pitching as well. Then you got Lopez, you got Joe Ryan as well. And that, I feel like the Twins have a pretty good shot as long as they continue this momentum and the lineup can build around that too. I think the Twins still got a pretty good chance, but that series against Cleveland is definitely not going to be as easy. It's definitely not going to be an easy one for sure.
Yeah, and this is pretty much the Central has been gift wrapped to them. Now you have to
You would think,
prove
yes.
why that you're better than the Guardians, and obviously you lose the series here. I mean, it's not like it wasn't for lack of try. They didn't get killed this series or anything. It was close.
No.
So, you go into this Cleveland series. I mean, if you can at least, if they sweep them, I mean that's great. But just don't get swept by Texas coming up here.
Yeah.
Because like you said, after that they don't play them the rest of the year. Then they I think they play the Mets or something coming up after that too. So we'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully. I mean, I want them to make the playoffs. I mean, granted, they probably will get knocked out in the first round, but I also know too, no one expected them to do much this year too. So, but I'm kind of giving them a pass, but I never really do because they're still owned by the Poleats. So, just saying. But congrats to Roycelewis. I think he's going to be a heck of a player for this Minnesota Twins squad here in the future now. So he's been hot. Let's keep it going. We definitely need it going into the playoffs. So, all right, Voldy, let's move on to our Minnesota Vikings here. They have released their 53-man roster. But then it's all messed up again. All of a sudden, Jalen Reagor's on the team. Now he's off the team. They waive him. And then the Vikings go and sign Myles Gaskin. And then the Vikings sign another offensive lineman as well in David Quessenberry, who has played a good number of games, too. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yep. Then the Vikings traded Vidarian Lowe to your New England Patriots. So now they have some depth with some of the offensive line. Voldy, there's really not a whole lot of surprises, and I asked this of you and the zoners too. But what's one that you're kind of looking at like, I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit why this person didn't make the roster and then this person did? I mean, is there any guys that really stand out to you that got cut or on the Vikings 53-man roster? What do you got?
I was, going into the start of the year, too, up until that signing of Myles Gaskin for the running back room, too. And I saw, obviously, some of the guys that they let go, but did sign on the practice squad, with the likes of Dwayne McBride. And, Abram Smith, wasn't horrible in the preseason. Definitely something to look at for the future, especially with the running back situation that they have going into this year. We didn't see any of Kene Nwangwu throughout the preseason, and now knowing that, obviously, because he's now going on the IR, which then led to the signing of Myles Gaskin, which is kind of like a little bit of a Dalvin Cook light situation. He can get the ball out of the backfield. Obviously, a runner as well, can find ways to squeak through some holes as well, too, there. But I think going into the start of the season, that was going to be my biggest question mark was, what's the running back situation going to be? Obviously, we do have the likes of Alexander Madison as well, and now you've got a little bit more competitive juice there now with Myles Gaskin added into that running back room for the Vikings, too.
So I'm kind of surprised about the Reagor thing because
a little bit, yeah.
I don't know about you, but like he's on the team, but then you waive him and bring in Gaskin. Now, from what I understand, the reason why they brought in Gaskin is because Kene Nwangwu has an injury designation, so he's on the IR. I'm not sure with what. We'll have to look into it a little bit more after the show. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the reason why that the Vikings made that move. But I also know that Gaskin has been very good. He's a good. I feel like he'd be a good running back too behind Madison. Now I've had some zoners text me this morning about them not like why are they signing Gaskin and not Kareem Hunt, and it's like, well,
right.
Maybe they still will. I mean, you can't sit here and tell me that. That they're still not in, because I feel like they are interested. But I also know, too, that maybe they just have a lot of confidence in Alexander Madison as opposed to going after Kareem Hunt. So there's something to factor into that there. Now, Dwayne McBride, I just didn't, like we were hyping this young man up because, got him. We feel like that was a steal. He was really good in college, and but I feel like there's still growth that needs to be had. If you've been watching some of these preseason games, I feel like he's not super shifty and not what we kind of expected. So I feel like there's a lot that's going to be talked about there. But I will say he did clear waivers, and he is on the practice squad. So luckily, it sounds like he's going to stay around here for us for a little bit. So we'll see how that plays out. The Rager thing's a little bit interesting, but at the same time, Brandon Powell's a pretty good punt returner. He when he was with the Rams, he took a punt return on the Vikings, so that one doesn't surprise me. I've really liked what he's done for the Vikings, especially here in the preseason. But yeah, the Rager thing I think is a little bit of a surprise because it's like, oh, you're about to trade him, and it's like, well, since you couldn't trade him, then you waived him, and there's just this whole thing going on. Right. So yeah, Nick Muse making the team, I feel like is interesting to me too, because I feel like that's kind of crowded with Hawkinson. You have Oliver, you have Johnny Munt. So that's kind of, that's interesting to me too, but that's what we got. Another thing too, and I feel like we're kind of, putting this to the side a little bit because it's like, well, kirkochainz and the wide receivers and everything like that. But offensive line, I mean, there's really not a whole lot of depth. I mean, originally Vidarian Lowe, he didn't really play as much, but the Vikings somewhat liked him, but then traded him to the Patriots. Now you're sitting at, was it Brandel? Brandel's on the team, Schlotman. But, besides those guys, who's going to be backing up? Because Chris Reed's on IR. And, I think that's why they brought in David Quessenberry. And I think, having that in the background definitely helps because you need to have a little bit of depth. And the right guard spot, Ingram, I don't know if he's shown a lot of improvement from last season, but I guess we'll see. But Dalton Reisner, I mean, he's still around. Maybe if you make the move, get her done. So it'll be interesting to see. But with this ever-changing 53-man roster, I mean, I think it looks pretty good. I like who we got. But let's fast forward to this week one game. We'll talk more about it next week, but let's just let's give a little dash of what to expect here. You got Baker Mayfield coming, and we'll talk about this more in ARA coming up. And you have the Buccaneers, which still have a pretty good defense. I mean, you can't discount that fact. Looking with both these teams here, obviously you want to give a slight edge to the Minnesota Vikings, offensively. But now with Flores' defense, are we going to see a lot of cool stuff happening? Different disguises, things like that. So Voldy going into this game here against the Buccaneers, and I asked this of the zoners as well. Are the Vikings going to come off, especially with the starters not even playing the preseason? Are they gonna start off hot, or do you think they're going to be a little rusty out of the gate here, week one?
I think it all really comes down to really up until that first play where someone gets hit in the mouth, and then it's just like, okay, now I'm ready. Here we go. Let's play some football. I think when you get to that point, I think the Vikings will be just fine. Looking at that matchup, of course, we'll break it down more next week with coming up against Tampa Bay. I think the Vikings, the basic thing for me, I'm looking at it, if they can protect Kirk Cousins, let him get the ball out, I think they'll be just fine. If you can protect him, keep the pressure away, and let him get the ball out to JJ and the boys out there in the field, I think the Vikings will do just fine.
I agree too. I look at what we've done with some of the guys that have made this roster. Ivan Pace Jr. Has been fantastic. I mean, the guy's undrafted, and people are like, he was a standout in camp. I mean, Flores loves the guy. So they're starting off pretty well defensively. It's going to be I don't know how big of an improvement it's going to be, but it's going to be a vast improvement from what we saw last year. More speed, a lot of young guys that are on this team. A name that I feel like people haven't really looked at fully to the best of their ability, I feel like. But Najee Thompson. I don't know if that name serves any. He's from Georgia Southern, undrafted. Okay. He just made the team. Like the Vikings wanted to keep him. He made a couple plays on special teams. He's kind of like the Chris Boyd now, being the gunner and whatnot. But he's made some nice plays in coverage too. That's why I think Jawan Williams. That's why they cut him. So that's a name I want people to look at too, because there's some undrafted guys that made this team, and you got to give them claps out for that. I mean, honestly, that's impressive. So I want you guys to keep an eye out on that coming up here. So, Alex, hey, I'm surprised. Where's Munson at? Not sure. No. Are you guys worried about the Vikings defense? They really don't have any big names other than Murphy. Well, Danielle Hunter.
What?
Harrison Smith.
What?
Ivan Pace Jr., who's been a stand-up. But, I mean, it's not a household name, but Harrison
Marcus
Phillips.
Davenport? What?
Yeah. Harrison Phillips. I mean, there's names on there that are pretty good. But let's be honest. I mean, you're going to have a lot of opportunities to blitz and whatnot and have these different disguises for for this defense. It's going to be much better than what it was with Donatel. I mean, it's that simple. But I'm worried in the fact that our linebackers aren't as I'm saying inside linebackers. Don't get me wrong, Jordan Hicks is good, but right. I feel like there's something missing, I feel like, with some of and hopefully, and I want this to happen with Ivan Pace Jr. I am hoping that Ivan Pace Jr. really kind of, plays a lot here coming up, starting hopefully week one.
We need that second game wrecker, because obviously Danielle Hunter is the game wrecker when fully healthy. We need a guy on that linebacking core there to be a guy that, look, if Danielle's going to be double-teamed and chipped off the line, then we need somebody coming, from the front seven that's not on the defensive line to go out there and, either cover and make a play or get in at the quarterback as well when he's flushed out of the pocket. We need that second game wrecker, I feel like, for that defense to vastly improve from last year.
Which, a good point you bring up, too. I mean, Za'Darius was supposed to be that other wrecking crew.
Right,
exactly. And that obviously was a weird situation. We've talked about it at length. But I feel like that Davenport has to be that guy. Or DJ Wanham. Don't forget DJ Wanham. I feel like he's made an impact there as well. But, you're going to have to see a little bit more. Patrick Jones, I feel like, is very underrated as well. I feel like this is going to be kind of a mix because he comes from the Belichick, tree of coaching. So, I feel like that'll – not saying that he's going to be absolutely he's going to be like Belichick, but there's some aspects I feel like he uses with his defense with Belichick. What are the secondary? Desmond King and Bradley Roby are options. The Vikings did have a visit from Ronald Darby, but then he signed with the Ravens, I believe. Yep. So secondary, I'm not. I feel like that is a question mark somewhat, but I also know that Caleb Evans, when he played against the Commanders this past year, he looked great. And I feel like after that game, he had that injury, he really didn't feel the same. Obviously, Dantzler's long gone, so we don't worry about that. But there's a lot to look forward to. Andrew Booth, that first game, he struggled, but then after that, he really improved. In practice, he's making picks, he's batting down balls, so maybe they see something there and he can be put into that mix too. So we'll see. But Byron Murphy, I think, he's shown in camp that he's ready to roll, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does for our purple here, starting on September 10th. So, as a Bronco fan, you don't want Darby. Okay, that's fine. That's why the Ravens signed him. So hey, we don't have to worry about that. I'm fine with me. So, but yeah, there are. I mean, to add to what Alex said, I mean, there are options out there. Like he said with King, I feel like King would be a little bit of a, fit. But I also know too that Joe Juwan Williams, I feel like, is a guy that they can bring in too. From the I think he is on the practice squad, so they can easily sign him and do what they need to do there. So there's a lot to factor in there, but thanks for the update on Darby. Maybe that was a good thing that they didn't sign him. So anyway, that's going to do it for Tater Tot Hot Take this week. A lot to talk about with the Vikings and the Twins. But Voldy, it is time for Where Are They Now? It has been a while, and we've got some classics here. We got Castle. We've got Brock Lesnar, which we will start off with. So we are really looking forward to it tonight, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it too. So without further ado, where are they now? Where'd they go? I can't find them.
Check your milk carton. It's time for Where Are They Now?
All right, it is time for Where Are They Now? We've got really good ones. I mean, I'm just going to say it. We got really good ones tonight, and a lot of them that I feel like work well because they're both, former Vikings per se. Well, I mean, officially one made the roster, but it is what it is. Yeah. But tonight, I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't start off with one Matt Cassel. So, Voldy, where's he now? What do we got?
Well, of course, you're not anything if you aren't without your past. And we talk about Matt Cassel. I really hope Matt Cassel is tuning into the show right now because he's been fairly active on social media after his playing career did officially end as well there. So
just want to throw that.
With Matt Cassel, of course, he was a journeyman quarterback, if you will, and primarily in a backup situation. His backup quarterback for Matt Leinart and also Carson Palmer in college. Well, both those guys ended up winning the Heisman Trophy, so I guess he was good by osmosis, if you will, with that. But after, of course, his time with college, he did end up getting drafted by New England and actually made it all the way up to backup for Tom Brady. 2008 happens. Tom Brady blows out his knee in week 1 and finished up as 10-5 on the season. So not bad. That served as a kind of an audition tape for the other 31 teams in the league because, well, Christian Ponder not Christian Ponder, but Matt Cassel, more on Ponder later. Matt Cassel, I should say, ended up becoming the starter for a few seasons in Kansas City, which unfortunately was a lot more flash in the pan there with the system that Todd Haley had as he was head coach. Great coordinator, not so great head coach for Todd Haley, still seeing it to this day. But even after being released by Kansas City, well, Matt Cassel ended up being in the same quarterback room with one Christian Ponder and the Minnesota Vikings. So at that time, it was the Christian Ponder show. It was a different time. The Metrodome had a new roof. The Metrodome was still a thing. Donovan McNabb was a Viking at one point. Then it became Christian Ponder show as well. The Vikings got new uniforms at that point. Week 3, 2013 season, a rib injury forces Christian Ponder to sit out week 4. And lo and behold, where do the Vikings go with Matt Cassel and crew? They go across the pond to play the Pittsburgh Steelers in London. The Vikings win that game. I know exactly where I was when that game took place. It was an early one. I was in, I think, second or third floor of Sweetland in the campus of Southwest Minnesota State University. I think I was in a kitchen or a laundry area or something. Somebody was doing laundry. I was watching the game and watched Matt Cassel lead the Vikings to victory. Unfortunately, the Vikings only went 5 10-1 that season.
Yep.
Castle did end up getting an extension at that point for his efforts with the Vikings that season. But after Matt Cassel did break his foot just 3 weeks into the 2015 season, well, that led the door wide open, and boy, did he knock it down with both his gloves at the same time. Teddy Bridgewater ended up becoming the starting quarterback for the Vikings, and, well, they never looked back. Cassel ended up getting traded to Buffalo, lost the backup competition, then got traded to Dallas, where he did go 1-6 as a starter for the injured Tony Romo, only to be benched by a guy that would end up coaching for the Cowboys a few seasons after, Kellen Moore, at one point. Oh, how might he have fallen in Matt Cassel. But Matt Cassel did end up going into 2016 to join the Titans, where he had some moments with Marcus Mariota on the fritz with injuries and could never really get that sustained magic that he had earlier in his season in his time with the Vikings and, of course, in New England as well. But after a couple of blowouts in the 2018 season where Matt Cassel was serving as a backup for the Detroit Lions, you could say he had a couple of swan song chances, that including coming into a blowout against the Minnesota Vikings toward the end of the season. But since his playing career did end, and Matt Cassel's kind of lived a little bit of a quieter life. He's enjoying life, wife, and kids, and family. Been a little bit of a sports pundit, if you will, on social media, showing up on, like the Pat McAfee show. He's showing up for such avenues as NBC Boston, other media outlets as well. But, of course, we would always enjoy the opportunity to reminisce the good old days with Matt Cassel, seeing him at training camp down in Mankato as well, when he was with the Vikings, and talking about his time as well, because, Matt Cassel was a great joy to have on the team, especially coming off and getting a fresh start for Minnesota, especially after the woeful end of his tenure in Kansas City that he was hoping to be so proud of, to help build a career as well. But since then, after, of course, his time in Minnesota, really bounced around and can never really find much sustained success as well. But you know what? Anytime Matt Cassel wants to come on the show, we'll be glad to have it. I mean, we'll make it happen one way or another. So, Matt Cassel's just living the retired athlete life right now and just doing his best wherever he can, whenever he can.
Well, Voldy, I want to quick add on to this because there were some fond Matt Cassel moments when we were down at training camp. I think you remember what he did when he came out of obviously this was in Mankato still.
Yep.
And he came out with water bottles and just selling, man. Yeah. So he obviously had that great positive attitude.
Too, so
it was, and that was pretty cool. Kind of seeing interact with fans and whatnot. So I remember that vividly, Voldy. But there was a saying that you had. I don't know if part 2 of that. Before we get into that, Alex says Munson was a huge Cassel fan. How could you not be? I wouldn't doubt it. I really wouldn't doubt it. But unfortunately, he is still a Ricky Rubio fan. But Foley, you had a saying back in training camp. Can you remind people what that was again?
I believe the one that you're talking about is it ain't no hassle with Matt Cassel. I believe that's the one that you're mentioning.
That's the one, and then there was another one. He's always slanging bombs because he could throw it pretty well. But obviously, bombs, part 2 of that.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Yep.
So, but it was fun. I mean, Matt Cassel, I feel like I think some injuries kind of derailed him a little bit. Obviously, I think some of the mechanics sometimes with him were kind of off somewhat, but he gave it his all, and you can only but respect that. So, and again, I would love, and we'd love to have Matt Cassel on the show. So, if that could happen sometime, we would love it. There he is, Matt Cassel, ain't no hassle. Let's move on to another athlete, and didn't really quite have the same success as one Matt Cassel, but if you're a wrestling fan, you know. Yep. Dun 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 dun. If you still are, or you watch wrestling or you have watched wrestling, you know that the former reigning, defending, undisputed WWE heavyweight champion of the world, Brock Lesnar, is a household name in the world of WWE. But did you know that Brock Lesnar was briefly a Minnesota Viking? And a lot of us had to think about that for a second. But so Brock Lesnar left WWE in 2004 and wanted to pursue a career in the NFL. He had no prior experience really with football. I mean, I think he played like Pee-wees or something like that, maybe a little bit of high school, but he never played in college. And with no prior experience, I mean, for a guy to come off and say, I want to do this and I'm going to take this seriously, and he did take it seriously, don't get me wrong. And he actually did pretty good with the lack of experience, especially defending his teammates in training camp. So, here's a little story, and this is by one of our guys, and we'd love to have him on the show sometime, Nate Burleson.
Yes, sir.
He told a story, and this was not too long ago, that he told this story, I should say, because it was a little bit ago, and this was his second season with the Minnesota Vikings, too. So Brock Lesnar, the Vikings would do joint practices with the Kansas City Chiefs because the Kansas City Chiefs used to practice up at River Falls. So that they would have
thought it was completely random of all the places.
I know there's some connection. Yeah, there's some connection there, but I can't remember what it was. But there is some connection there, why they did that. So. Anywho, with that being said, they do the joint practices. So on a hot, humid day, and again, it gets really hot down in Mankato, which they still did. Very hot, humid, scuffle breaks out, like usual. And but the one thing that you don't do is you hit the quarterback. And one of the Kansas City Chiefs pushed down one, Dante Culpepper. He gets shoved in the back, and Brock Lesnar sees this. And this is the story from Nate Burleson. Brock runs over, picks up Dante, asks who pushed him, and Dante points at the guy who pushed him. And what does Brock Lesnar do? He runs over there and suplexes him like he went full WWE on this guy. I wish I could have seen that. That would have been hilarious. But the guy is just built. He is just a specimen. He is unbelievably strong. But just to think about, oh my God, he actually suplexed the guy, a football player. And I bet this dude was big too. So, talk about a guy that you'd want on your team, right? So, Brock had only one tackle in a preseason game, but, that's, trying to do that, and, he studied every day, he tried to learn, how to do it, but he was released after the last preseason game. The Vikings did ask if he wanted to be, because at the time you could go overseas and play a little bit, and then if something were to happen, he could eventually be signed by the Vikings, but I don't think he wanted to do that. He wanted to be with family. So, this is a very easy where are they now, because honestly, I feel like you look on the socials medias and Brock's everywhere, right? So, unless you've been living under a rock, pun intended, badoom, he actually went to New Japan Pro Wrestling for a little bit. He won a title or two there. And then becomes an MMA fighter with a record of it just it is what it is, winning the undisputed UFC heavyweight championship, and he had 2 title defenses. So, not too shabby, and especially being an NCAA champion as well, but that was before it. So we're talking about his time after he, played a little bit for the Vikings. He retired from MMA and then returned to WWE and was a 7-time WWE World and Universal Champion. During that time, he was a 10-time champion total throughout his WWE career. He's still active. Beat The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania 30. Royal Rumble winner, Money in the Bank winner, etc., etc., etc. So he's doing quite well. I mean, Brock is a very, I would say, introverted guy. He definitely likes his time alone. He doesn't like to be around too many people, but obviously when he does his job with WWE, he's a smart guy. He's really smart. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
He's got his own steak spice now,
Yep.
and jerky spices and stuff like that. He does stuff like that. He's got his hands in a lot of different pockets right now.
He does, and he's doing just fine. After his time with the Vikings, and obviously, some of those guys don't have that luxury of being like, okay, I got cut, and what am I gonna do? Like, am I gonna be successful at what I? And obviously, Brock is just the specimen that's insanely the guy's smart. He's strong. He's the ultimate athlete, and obviously, University of Minnesota. His career wrestling there, and he proves people wrong, and I thought this was a good Where Are They Now with Brock Lesnar, and we're always going to be Brock Lesnar fans. I mean, it's that simple, and I just hope he doesn't ever F5 me. That would hurt a lot, or suplex me for that minute. I don't want to go to Suplex City, so we like Brock here, so I think we got pretty good Where Are They Nows, and if Brock ever saw this, we're fans of you. Don't get me wrong. You're on McAfee. Heck, why don't you come on a Minnesota show? We'd love to have you. So,
Love it.
Throwing that out there to one Brock Lesnar. All right, that was great. Where Are They Now this week, Voldy? It ain't no hassle with Matt Cassel, baby. I love it. We would love to have him on the show, along with Brock Lesnar, and if you want to take a look at what we talked about before and just run it back, Matt Cassel, Brock Lesnar, let's go. All right, Voldy, ARA, we got a lot of football talk. Where are they now? Blair Walsh, legendary Vikings kicker. Alex, I know you did that just to mess with us a little bit, but I am curious to know, where is Blair Walsh now? I am curious. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I hope he's doing well. I really do.
Chris Cluey, where is he now?
That's another good one, too. So, we've got a lot of Vikings that we could bring up, but, there's plenty to go through.
Cook, where are they now?
Yeah, Dalvin Cook, yeah. There's Dalvin Cook. But, obviously, that's going to be down the road. So, all right, ARA, we're talking about Baker, QB1 for the Buccaneers. Treylance has a new team. Matt Stafford is back, pushing people off stages. Just kidding. Pats with only one QB, and who's going to win the real battle of Miami? Who knows? In college football. So, Voldy, let's get it going. What's up? Observe or approve.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, ahead of the Week 1 season opener for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Minnesota Vikings, Head coach for the Buccaneers, that being Todd Bowles, did announce before the preseason finale this past weekend who will be the quarterback of the future for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, filling the shoes of a former Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. And Todd Bowles did say that Baker Mayfield will be the starting quarterback for the 2023 season, at least to start the season, ahead of the quarterback battle that was for former second-round draft pick Kyle Trask out of the University of Florida. But that being said, now this is going to be the third team for Baker Mayfield since he was traded from the Cleveland Browns and then ended up with the Rams, which he did see some action as well, moderate success there in his time to close out last season. But with Baker Mayfield now taking the reins as QB number 1 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is it absurd or approved? Will Baker be the starting quarterback through the first bye week and or the end of the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Ooh, that's a great question. And it's quite evident that Kyle Trask is just, I don't think he's up to that point yet at all, really. But, I think of Baker and what he's kind of been through and whatnot. You go to Cleveland, obviously things didn't work out there. Then you go to Carolina and things were just weird there. And then you go to the Rams and maybe there's some life there. But he did struggle after that game against the Vegas Raiders last year, and then going into, I think it was like the Green Bay game or something. He was just bad. But the Buccaneers are kind of in this weird thing. I mean, it's life after Brady, right? So now you have Baker Mayfield coming in, and obviously he's not going to be Brady, and he's not going to try to be Brady. But I also think that him being QB1 makes a lot of sense. He's gone through a lot. He's kind of understanding a little bit more of the game. And but to answer your question, I think he will. It's got my stamp of approval. I think he's going to get by the first bye week, and then I think after that, I think he'll go through the end of the season. I really do. And the reason why I do say that is because he's got weapons, man. I mean, you look at Mike Evans, you look at Chris Godwin, you look at a backfield now. Unfortunately, no more Leonard Fournette, but Rachaad White is no slouch. You've got some weapons there, and I feel like he can definitely do that. Tight end wise, I feel like they might be lacking a little bit, but if they can at least keep, Baker upright and, he doesn't have to do too much, he can be successful. I know we've ripped on Baker on the show a lot and whatnot, and him not playing well, but I don't expect him to be this game-changing quarterback. I mean, this is barring any injury, right? But right. I feel like their defense is still pretty good. Vita Vea is a beast in the middle. Levante David, you got Devin White. Even though there were some issues there, it seems like things are somewhat resolved. We don't know. But Antoine Winfield Jr., don't forget him. So I look at this and think, okay, yeah, this makes sense. It's got my stamp of approval. I say he will be starting QB through that bye week and then the end of the season, because who's there after him? Kyle Trask. And I'm sorry, it ain't it, bruh, with Kyle Trask. But the Vikings, this is what Alex says. The Vikings beat the Buccaneers 34-10. Ooh, I like the way you're talking there, my friend, even though you are a Broncos fan. Murphy has 2 picks. Ooh, I like that. I like that too. Jetta, JJ, 231 and 2 touchdowns. That is, wow. Man, you must really want us to win. I like that, man. Stamp of approval. Voldy, what do you think?
I think you bring up a lot of good points, too, especially with Baker. He does have that starting experience as well, especially going with the new team. You definitely throw that into the mix here. You look at the start of the season for the Bucs as well. Obviously, they open up on the road at Minnesota to start week 1. A lot of emotions, a lot of that vested in that week 1 matchup. Then you're at home against Chicago, at home against Philly. Then you go to New Orleans week 4, and then you're bye week. So you got first 4 games there. you could be looking at, I'm going to say, best case scenario 2-2, maybe 1-3, solid 1-3 chance there for them. Do you pull the plug on Baker then? No, I don't think you do. Just because it's a new team, new system that he's going to be working with, getting familiar with everybody. But even with the weapons that they do have, there are still a couple of question marks too. I mean, with Chris Godwin, is he going to be fully healthy? Mike Evans as well. He's been questionable at times here going into the start of the season. Who do you have after those guys? You've got Devin Tompkins, Raheem Jarrett, and Trey Palmer. Nobody, basically, after that. Running game's probably going to be leaned on a little bit. You know, you do have Rashad White. Then you do have Chase Edmonds, who is questionable. And then Keyshawn Vaughn, who was a draft pick a couple years ago for them, who I've been really looking forward to see. Hopefully him get some action as well. They don't have Cameron Braid anymore. They don't have O.J. Howard anymore. They don't have even Rob Gronkowski anymore at the tight end position. You got Cade Otton. You've got Cole Keefe, who was a former Gopher as well. And that's it. That is the receiving core there at the tight end spot. So it's going to be a labor of love. I feel like the defense is really going to be pressed here for these first couple of weeks, at least, to carry carry this Buccaneers team here, at least to start off the season as well. So I think at the end of the season, I feel like Baker will be, but there will be some action for Kyle Trask at some point as well. He will see some significant play, I feel like, but I feel like by the end of the season, Baker's still going to be quarterback number 1 for the Buccaneers.
And that's, obviously injuries are going to pop up here at some point too. So that's very possible as well. So, yeah. So stamp approval for you for both the bye week and end of the season. All right. Good deal. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, unfortunately, the Treylance era in the Bay Area has come to an end. If it ever really got started, it never really started nor ended for that to begin with. But after 2.5 years, Treylance and the San Francisco 49ers have parted ways, as the Niners did agree to send the quarterback that they traded up for to get in the first round very high with their selection to the Dallas Cowboys for a 4th-round draft pick this past Friday, and that is just unlocking all sorts of emotions and feelings, and just looking back at that draft class that Treylance was a part of, really, really scratching a lot of heads as well. So Treylance now with the Dallas Cowboys, which brings up even more questions too for the soon-to-be hopefully quarterback of the future, that being with Treylance, does bring up, of course, with Dak Prescott. Now, is he going to be happy? Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be starting by the end of the season? Is he going to be gone? I don't know. But this brings up a good question. With now Treylance in the fold in the Big D, is it absurd to approve that Treylance could be the full-time starting quarterback for dem boys within 3 seasons?
Oh, man. Let me go back a second, because there was some uncertainty is not the right word here, but Dak Prescott did not know about this, and
not at all.
I don't think he was very happy that they went and got him. It seemed like Jerry Jones and his boys went and did it without his consent, but. It's interesting to me, because now he's with the Dallas Cowboys, and yes, I know that some Vikings fans were hoping that the Vikings would go and get Lance, but I just quick add with this, which, is it a bummer? Okay, yeah, maybe a little bit, but I mean, let's not forget too that maybe the 49ers were on to. I'm not saying, because I do like Trey Lance. I feel like he just gotten the short end of the stick. In San Fran, but the Vikings are happy with what they got with Jaren Hall. And granted, Kirk's been playing at a high level too, so I just want to say that before we even get to that. But I just think it's funny that Dak is like, wait, what is going on? Like, I never, I wasn't informed of this, which is interesting. I don't know. And the reason why I say I don't know is because, Trey's still got to, prove this in practice and preparation and things like that with the Dallas Cowboys. And being in that system, he's got to learn the system. I mean, this isn't something to where he's just going to, when Dak gets hurt, Trey's going to go in. That's not the case here. But he's got to kind of prove it a little bit and, go from there. But I think it's interesting that they did trade for him. I mean, they only gave up a fourth. I mean, what's a fourth-round pick? Right. Some guys do turn out well, but at the same time, I mean, that's all you had to give up. But a lot of people think that he's a bust. A lot of people said it was the worst trade of all time for the 49ers and all this stuff. But, I mean, did you really give the guy a chance? I mean, was he really that bad in the preseason? I didn't think he was that bad in the preseason.
Nope.
I don't really understand it, but did the Cowboys get a steal? We're going to see. I mean, that's the big part about this whole time. But let me quick get to Alex here. Lance will be a bust. Played 1 year at NDSU. Didn't play his sophomore year and was taken number 3. Never had any time to actually develop. And I feel like the reason why...
Mattie, bro.
Right. The reason why treylance, why they traded up for Lance, they have the potential. But did they really develop them? And Jimmy Garoppolo, if I'm not mistaken, he was quoted saying there's a lot of weird things that are happening over in San Fran.
Doesn't surprise me.
So,
Doesn't surprise me.
there's a lot going on here that we might not know, and maybe we're not giving Trey a full, a really big chance. So this is huge for treylance to really show, hey, I can be that guy that people told me to be, and if he can be that with the Cowboys, watch out. I just would be peeved if it would be with the Cowboys and not with us. But this is tough. I'm going to say absurd just because I feel like there's a lot of unknowns here. But with Dak not being happy about that kind of leads me a little towards approved. I could see that happening. So I'm going to say absurd for now, but I feel like as time goes on, that could change. But I'll go with absurd for this time. But I believe Trey is going to, hopefully he shows some. I feel like he wasn't that bad in the preseason, and I think he's going to be hopefully a good quarterback and shut all these people up. So we'll see. Voldy, what do you think?
I think looking at the whole situation leading up to this trade, too, everybody getting on treylance's back, yes, you could say that he was a bit of a reach for that pick,
sure,
that he ended up being number 3 overall when he got drafted to San Francisco. But you don't know these things going into the draft as well. You don't know if you're going to get the next... I don't know. Are you going to get the next Tom Brady in the first round, or are you going to get the next Tom Brady in the 7th round? You don't know these things. You hope that you are right the first go round. And like you said as well, was he ever really given much of a chance? First year, kind of used as a gadget guy in there every once in a while. Not really much success as well. But then you get him his first full chance to start, he gets injured. He almost, blows out his whole leg and everything from the knee down at that point when he got injured in Chicago. So he's coming back. Now you look at this preseason, you got to look at it from a half-glass-full standpoint because he's trying to come back from injury. He's trying to get reacclimated to the offense as well. And really, there was no sort of confidence from anybody in the media, in the locker room, or even with the coaching staff that treylance is going to be our starting quarterback here going into the start of the season because of the fact that, what Brock Purdy did at the end of the season as well. Then you bring in Sam Darnold, who's a starter as well with some experience as well. There was no confidence for treylance at the start of this at the start of the season for him that I was definitely not surprised. I don't want to say he struggled. It's the preseason. Everybody stinks. If you're actually good in the preseason, you'll probably get cut before the 53-man roster as well. Seen it way too many times. These guys that go off in the preseason, sure, they land themselves a spot on the team, or they get cut at the very last end as well. But now with this trade going into Dallas, I wasn't surprised that Jerry didn't bring it up to Dak Prescott because then that brings up a whole sense of, well, we're not very confident you're going to be our quarterback next year. So we're going to get a guy who's still young, who's probably a younger version of you, to maybe save us a little bit of money on the back end of things as well. Because looking at the contract for Dak Prescott, his contract comes up at the end of next season, and he's set to make $59 million against the cap, the salary cap, next year as well. Now, if Jerry can get a guy at a much lower rate under somebody else is paying him and get something in return at the same time, I feel like Jerry would definitely pull the trigger on that and let Dak Prescott go the other way, or sign him at a much lower rate, knowing that, yeah, probably in 2-3 years you're not going to be playing or being considerate as well, because we definitely have seen Dak Prescott struggles as well, obviously with the injuries he's had, and then last year he was throwing the ball to the other team and just all sorts of weird shenanigans on the field as well that did not lead to the success that many Dallas fans were wanting. I find it very interesting as this whole situation has developed. Now, within a 3-year span, knowing that the quarterbacks that the Dallas Cowboys have gone through in the time of Troy Aikman to Tony Romo to now, I would definitely not be surprised if Treylance is starting within 3 seasons. It's got my stamp of approval. He will be starting for the Cowboys on a full-time basis within 3 seasons.
We shall see. Hopefully, I really do hope it works out, but just for another team. Another team, not the Cowboys. We don't like Cowboys. No. Anyway, next one, Foldy.
Well, we go to a very interesting locker room situation from one team or 2 teams now to a different one, bridging the gaps of generations. Now, we know that entering his 15th season and 3rd with the Los Angeles Rams, that being Matthew Stafford, starting quarterback last season, of course, did handle some injuries and also not being able to finish off the season for the team, removed from a Super Bowl 2 seasons ago. The old veteran has been running into some issues trying to connect with the younger generations. The old man yelling at the clouds outside is having trouble connecting with the kids of today. So according to his wife, his wife did mention on her podcast, it's kind of crazy. So Matthew's been in the league a long time, going into his 15th season. The difference in the locker room has changed significantly. They have a lot of rookies on their team. They're very young, but it's like, I feel like I can't connect. This is something that you definitely don't hear about a lot, especially with, you got some of the young guys mixing in with the veterans as well. You didn't really hear a lot this with like when Tom Brady ended up with like Tampa Bay and all the young guys that they had down there as well. Because Tom Brady, he's like the cool dad or whatever, but Matthew Stafford, I don't know if he's at that same level or not, but looking at, of course, with the roster shakeups that they've had the last couple of years, of course, you still have, some of the experienced guys. Of course, you still have Stafford. You have Cooper Kupp. You do have Aaron Donald on the other side as well. But, of course, with this new shakeup in the roster as well and all these young guys you have coming in, especially with a team that it's a 2 seasons removed from winning the Super Bowl, they need to be able to pick things up because that NFC West is wide open right now in a few different areas and certainly could be for the taking for the Rams as well. But looking at the situation that you have with Stafford trying to connect with some of these young guys and some of the guys that he's going to have to lean on to make plays this season, is it absurd or approved that Stafford's inability to connect with his teammates will show on the field and possibly a down season for the Los Angeles Rams once again?
Well, there was always talk too, and I want to factor this in too because there was talk that McVay might retire. It seems to me, and this is again, this might be too far fetched, but he was not. They were not the same last year, and obviously they had the injuries with Stafford and then Cooper Kupp and all that stuff. Yeah, I get that. But I feel like that controversy going in, and, McVay is a good coach, don't get me wrong, and, they didn't have a lot of, but he's like worn out by it. But that's life of an NFL coach. You're going to go through ups and downs. So I feel like that kind of factors into it. But getting back to a question here. He's still got Cooper Kupp, so you have that connection going forward, and I feel like Tyler Higbee is another connection that you have there too. And yeah, there's a lot of young guys that are on this team. Don't get me wrong there, but it's an adjustment. I mean, this isn't the team that you won the Super Bowl with. You don't have Odell Beckham Jr. there. And you had that two-headed monster with him and, Kupp and Odell and whatnot, and that career season that Cooper Kupp did have. But this is a team that I feel like is getting older. Obviously, Aaron Donald is still a force to be reckoned with. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They don't have Jalen Ramsey anymore. They traded him away. They thought Allen Robinson would do well last year. He was not even a factor, So he's going to have to try to connect because, I mean, this is, you're the guy. They traded for you to be the guy. And, yeah, you won the Super Bowl with McVay and, and whatnot, but that's long gone now. This is a whole different ball game. Yeah, I think it's got my stamp of approval. I feel like it's going to show on the field, and he is no spring chicken anymore. I mean, through the years he's been beaten up and sacked a lot and whatnot when he was with the Lions, and quite frankly, that's something to keep your eye on. But we saw that with Matt Ryan. I mean, good Lord, he was just not himself when he played with the Colts and whatnot, and it's hopefully it doesn't come to that, but I think you're going to see that on the field this year. So stamp of approval. Voldy, what do you got?
I could see it happening in a couple of different ways, and knowing that the Rams are a team that they need success, and they're going to need it right away, especially with this NFC West being fairly wide open. I know the Seattle is a team you definitely don't want to sleep on. I know that, of course, the Cardinals are a team that they seem like they're already tanking for next season to begin with, too. And then you've got the Niners. Oh, yeah, I forgot the Niners. Yeah, well, they could be the contender in that
that'll
one.
Be
but
a tough
Rams,
one for
I feel like they need to pick it up. They need to pick it up fast. And if the quarterback can't get on the same level as his teammates as well, the younger teammates, well, there's a younger guy in the mix as well. And I say younger because he's not, he is a rookie, but he's not a rookie in the sense he's, 21 years old coming out of college. No, this guy is like almost the same age as Stafford. Stetson Bennett is the backup quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. And he's younger, and he is much closer in age to these younger guys than, Matthew Stafford, I will say that, but definitely not at the same level. But you look at this team, too. Obviously, you have Cooper Kupp, who is questionable going into the start of the year. Tutu Atwell, you've got Van Jefferson, Ben Skoranek as well, Demarcus Robinson. Those are the receivers. Then you got Tyler Higbee. You got Bryson Hopkins as well at the tight end spot. They need to figure it out, and they need to figure it out quick. I feel like Stafford has been a guy that has had to adjust his whole career because of all those years that he spent wasting away in Detroit. Really built him to the point that, he's just going to have to make things happen one way or another. And I feel like this could be another situation. Is it going to show on the field? Probably early on, but once they work out all those kinks, they could certainly put some things together and maybe be a contender in that Western Division once again, too. So I think it will show early on. That's where I put my stamp of approval. It will show early on, but I feel like they could definitely, hopefully get some things straightened out there as the weeks develop throughout the season.
We'll have to ask Jason again and see where things are at and whatnot, what he's thinking. So, anyway, next one, Voldy.
Well, with the cuts that came through at the end of the preseason and the start of this week with the NFL rosters, one team made a surprising move that wasn't fully surprising yet very intriguing. The New England Patriots did waive and cut both backup quarterbacks for their team, leaving only one quarterback on the roster heading into the start of the season as it currently stands. Bailey Zappi, who did play significant time last season for the Patriots, and rookie quarterback Malik Cunningham were cut on Tuesday as part of moves to solidify Mac Jones' standing as the team's starter and also keep that void wide open at that backup quarterback spot. Is this very surprising? No. but is it shocking nonetheless, especially given the recent turnaround in quarterbacks they've had the last couple of years? A little bit. Knowing the Patriots, they might find somebody here before the start of the season, especially with Bailey Zappi, who did have some success with the Patriots last season, and a promising quarterback, rookie prospect in Malik Cunningham coming out of Liberty as well. That is a bit of a shocking move, but both players did end up getting signed to the practice squad. So this is probably just a way that they can save some more money from the Patriots, with Bill Belichick still holding the purse strings for the team as well. But is it absurd or approved? Will the Patriots be able to pick up a quarterback before any other quarterback help before week one, besides those two guys in Zappi and also with Cunningham too?
Yeah, I think they will, because I think you kind of need a backup. I mean, who's going to be your backup if somebody gets hurt if you don't have somebody active? And I get why you want to, hold on to money. So, yeah, I think they're going to have to. I mean, who's going to be your emergency quarterback if things go south? I mean, was it going to be Matthew Slater, who's in his, 80th year in the NFL? No, I'm just kidding. Not 80th, but give or take.
He's been there a while.
He's been there a while. But, yeah, I mean, you have to. Don't you need a backup quarterback? You can't just have one quarterback on the roster. If Mac Jones gets hurt, you're kind of screwed on offense. So I feel like, they're going to pick up somebody. It's interesting to me why they get rid of Zappi, who's played actually pretty well in relief of Mac Jones. So yeah, that's interesting to me. Cold take: Pats trade Kyler so Cardinals can get Caleb Williams. How'd you feel about that, Foldy?
I wouldn't hate it. Honestly,
there you go. Wouldn't hate it. There you go. So,
I definitely wouldn't hate it.
Well, he'll have to be studying the playbook then, especially under Belichick. So,
yeah,
give or take. Don't play Call of Duty a lot there, Kyler. So yeah, stamp of approval. You have to have a backup. So, Voldy, what do you think?
Well, Bailey Zappi did get signed to the practice squad. I think, if anything, this is just more of a power move, and power, that being money as well, so they don't get affected by the salary cap and everything. Seen stuff like this before with Belichick and especially the Patriots. It's not that overly surprising. You would just think you'd have at least two quarterbacks, because they've always had just two. It's never been two and then a guy in street clothes on the sideline. No, it's always been two quarterbacks that they've had since the 2000s, literally since Belichick got there as well. So they have Mac Jones on the roster, Bailey Zappi back on the practice squad. He's still going to be there to sign him off the practice squad if something should happen, knock on wood as I say that here, going into week 1 and 2. But, even in that brief time that Zappi did have success, he played pretty well in that game against Green Bay this past season too, which wasn't which was a bit of a surprise and caught a few people off guard as well, given that Green Bay was trying to, recapture some magic as well with the last go around with Aaron Rodgers there. This all really comes as a power move. Will they sign anybody else? I highly doubt they will. They probably will keep Cunningham a little bit close if he doesn't get picked up by anybody else. At least keep him familiar in the event that they need to sign Zappi off the practice squad. I think they'll be fine just there.
Yep, I agree. I think he'll have a plan. He always does. So Belichick always does. So we'll see. All right, last one. Volde.
So it comes to the start of the college football season. Some games did get played this past week as well, but the real start of the 2023 college football season has a very interesting matchup. It's the battle for Miami. The University of Miami, the one down in Florida, takes on Miami University of Ohio in Florida coming up here as well. Now, of course, this is a very interesting one. I think I saw something well before the start of the season that somebody tweeted out, whoever wins this matchup, the other school should be called the other Miami until the two teams play against each other as well. But in a press conference that did take place with the start of the season coming up, that the fifth-year quarterback for the Red Hawks of the Miami, Ohio, that being Brett Gabbert, in relation to quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, backup, I should say, Blaine Gabbert. It's either his nephew or his very youngest brother. I don't know. I think it's his nephew. But when asked about where is the real Miami being located, Gabbert was quick to respond and send a message to the week one opponent, and he said Oxford, Ohio. That is the location for Miami University, the home of the Red Hawks, and Gabbert then responded, I think we'll show them during a regular season opener on September 1st. So some shots fired from the fifth-year quarterback for the Miami Red Hawks to take on the Miami Hurricanes coming up here this weekend as well. Now, do you find this absurd or approve that Gabbert's comments talking about the Red Hawks being able to show something to the Hurricanes? And do you think that the losing school should be referred to as the other Miami, depending on who wins this matchup coming up here on the weekend?
It's funny. First of all, I think it's funny. Already trash talk going on, which is interesting to me, and it seems somewhat cocky, but here's what I'm going to say. Don't, or I'll say it better. It's better this way. Make sure you back up your talk. Because if you lose this game, those Miami players are going to be Miami, Florida players are going to be on you like no other. And that is very cocky that you say that. And, hopefully that you can back that up, because if you can't, you are going to get massacred by not only fans, players, probably even some coaches here and there. But to answer your question, I would say so. Might as well. It's like fun. I kind of like this rivalry thing going here.
Definitely.
Miami of Ohio versus Miami of Florida. Obviously the U and whatnot. So I think it's better this way or something like that. Or however they do it. They should. Whoever loses should be referred to the other Miami. But Voldy, let's not forget that this is the U, man. Like, this is the U. Like, you can't lose this game to this team. If you lose this game, you're going to be known as the other Miami.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like that. It'd be referred to as the other Miami. So, yeah, it's got my stamp of approval there. But be careful what you wish for, Mr. Gabbert. So, if Miami, the U has got to win this game, and if they don't, oh boy, you're gonna hear it from the other or the Miami of Ohio. So, I like the other Miami idea. I think that's fun, but back it up, man. That's all I gotta say. Voldy, what do you got?
I think I like the confidence in the youngest Gabbert to, really put his team out there and at least have that confidence going into the start of this week. But, man, you got to back that talk up as well. I know that Miami, Florida has been struggling these last few, say, decade or so to really regain that prominence that they had in the, obviously the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s, that they don't have that same swagger anymore that they had before. And, you're resting on your laurels. Like, go out there and create something for yourself. I feel like college football is better when Miami is good. And it's been a long time since we could say that Miami has been good, because those were the glory days, man. Early 2000s, late 90s, Miami was just running shop on everybody, and it was great football as well. All those guys getting drafted first round, going to the NFL, and more guys would come right up and be that same way as well. I could see it being one of two ways. It could be a competitive game because Miami, Florida will find ways to lose the game, or Miami, Florida is just going to come right out and then nail Miami of Ohio to the side of the to the side there and just slap them silly for 4 quarters of football. I could see it going those two ways. The comments, absolutely. I think it's got my stamp of approval there, just because Got to have that confidence coming in and definite stamp of approval. This should be the battle for the real Miami. If they don't have a trophy, the losing team should walk out of the stadium with the other Miami shirts on and be referred to that up until the next time that they play. I don't know the most recent time that they played against each other, but
who knows?
Florida is 3-0 against Miami, Ohio all time as well. So definitely a couple of stamps of approval with those.
There you go. All right, that's going to do it for Absurd or Approved this week. Great job as always, Voldy.
Thanks, sir.
We got a lot of Shield shout-outs this week, so I say we get going with some Shield shout-outs.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, it's time for Shield shout-outs, and Shield, who you shouting out tonight?
Well, first off, I got to give a big Shield shout-out to my guy, Josh, over at Lids at Crosstown Mall here in St. Cloud for the sweet advice and helping me set up. Of course, the camera quality is a little bit low, but these are high quality. That's right. These are one of one right here. MinneZona Sports Live, fitted, new era cap. It just took me probably about an hour to get these all whipped up. Here's the red one I've got right here as well. So big shout out to my guy, Josh, over at Lids for the sick hookup on those. We're still working on getting some new hats in as well for you guys to buy. More on that coming up here, hopefully, as football season gets underway. We do got to send a big congratulations Shield shout out to friend of the program, Alex Koopmeiners. This week actually marked his 1 year removed from doing an interview with us here on the show.
Oh, wow.
And, well, Coop finished off his little off-season on-ice program by winning the Beauty League Championship this past week as well. So shout out to Coop as well. Got engaged this summer, won the Beauty League at the same time. It is the summer of Coop in so many different ways there. Sadly, here this week, the world of professional wrestling, we talked earlier with Brock Lesnar, lost a pair of legends. The hardcore icon Terry Funk did pass away as well. And sadly, earlier this week, this past week, I should say, Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda of the great Rotunda family, sadly passed away unexpectedly. Of course, he had battled health issues coming off the COVID pandemic, heart issues to go along with that. Bray Wyatt did pass away as well. And sadly, Terry Funk also did pass away. A couple of legends in their own time as well that will sadly be missed in the pro wrestling landscape. And we do have to say best of luck in retirement to a pitcher who was a phenomenon out of high school, out of college, and into the pros as well. Steven Strasburg, unfortunately, announced that he will have to retire as he'd been battling through some health and nerve issues in his pitching arm ever since 2022. Hasn't been able to fully been active on the Washington Nationals roster since coming out of college out of San Diego State, being coached for the late great Tony Gwynn, into the Nationals, making him a prominent player and thus leading to a World Series championship in 2019. One of the more random teams to ever win a World Series of after being just god-awful for so long. Eventually something came right with that. But Steven Strasburg, I remember literally watching his very first start. He was pitching for the Nationals at home against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I was watching on Major League Baseball Network. Ivan Rodriguez was catching him. This is the same guy that broke into the major leagues, Pudge Rodriguez. He caught Nolan Ryan, and he caught Steven Strasburg. That's how great the career of Pudge Rodriguez was. Double-digit strikeouts for Strasburg in his career. A flamethrower pitcher, did battle through some injuries in the latter half of his career, but nonetheless, World Series champion. Definitely an electric player that he was in his time with his power pitching. And, well, hopefully retirement will be good for him as well. And that's going to do it for Shield Shoutouts this week.
You gotta love it. Very good Shield shout-outs for this week. And, yeah, like we said, the hats look great. Obviously, our quality's being really weird. But that just means that, you know, we're trying to establish a connection so Foldy doesn't drop out on us. So, without further ado, great job. Yeah, MinneZona Pick'em. Get signed up. It's free. Might as well. You can win free merch. Who doesn't want to win free merch? You can win the Zona bundle at the end of the season.
Gotta have it.
It's a win-win. you can win. I mean, it's that simple. So, without further ado, speaking of merch, we've got merch. We got the shirts, $20, $5 shipping, hats like Voldy, and we got stickers. We got the stickers, $2 for the small ones, $3 for the big ones. Been making a couple sales here and there with stickers. The hats were, like Voldy said, we're working on, and they will be coming soon, and we'll let you know. And there's another thing in the works, which we will keep you informed about as well. So, make sure you check out W2 Performance, Will Rattel at www.w2performance.com. Thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knudsen for the stickers. Make sure you check out the Victorious P.O.D. with Tyler Hermann and Jack Vickers. Fantasy football drafts are heating up. Get all your fantasy football draft stuff to check out with our guys over there, so make sure you check them out. We're going to try to get them on the show here soon, and make sure you check out TLS Performance, Troy Stoudemire Jr. He's got all that stuff happening, and then check out Popcorn Bucket List, PBL, Nick Dahlhoff, Ryne Myhrberg for Omni Entertainment. So make sure you check out all that cool stuff, and yeah, that's going to do it for episode 161. We're going to be back next week. It's going to be Purple Wednesday, MinneZona. We got a lot to talk about with our Vikings starting off the season, expectations, some hot takes, I will say, that's for sure. We do, bold predictions that we do every year. We will have those ready to go for our Minnesota Vikings, and we'll see who either gets most approved statement or maybe most absurd statement. Hopefully not for all of us, but Mikey Ryan will probably join us on Wednesday, so make sure you check that out. All right, that's going to do it for episode 161, and remember, as always, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.